Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Um, you guys will be happy to know that I have so much fitness and health content coming for you, especially because it's the holidays coming up. So I'm really excited for that. First, I want to let you know that I am having a guilt-free holiday, No Guilt November seminar, and it's going to be free. So we're just going to talk about how to survive the holidays and not. Most people get to the holidays and they feel like they can't keep their fitness goals because there's so many parties and there's so many things going on. So I'm having a seminar that I do every single year, and it's called No Guilt November, and it's really about just learning how to eat healthy through the holidays, learning how to maintain your health through the holidays without just going out of control. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in the link section below. And then I'm going to get into the topic for today in the description box today. So let me just work on moving some things around here and getting this in the link so you guys can join me for that. We're going to be basically just be talking about what to do during the holidays and um like what kind of workouts you should be doing, what should you be eating at these sort of parties, like when do you decide if it's okay to indulge and all of that. So, let me just link is on and then okay, so today's topic, what we're talking about is I've had so many people ask me about just like dating um, because I recently got married and like I basically like people knew I was dating, but they had no idea who I was dating and I kept it kind of private. I hadn't done this in the past. In the past, I just shared everything that I was doing. And for some reason, I don't know, I just felt like, you know, this ain't everybody's business kind of thing. So and so anyway, so I recently got married. So people have been asking me like, well, where did you meet your husband? And how did that all go about and all that other stuff. So I'm gonna talk about how challenging it was to date in my 30s because this is the truth. It was really, really hard. Um, even, in my 20s and 30s, really, it was really, really hard to do that for me. And I think a lot of that just has to do with just the way that I was raised and not really knowing how to navigate like marriage and looking for marriage and all of that. So, what I'm going to do, let me just copy this link. Sign up for No Guilt November. No, sign up for No Guilt November. Finally got this going. I think this is working. It's free. So just log in just so I know how many people to expect. And then I'll do a Q&A at the end and we'll just talk about, different diets and things that people are interested in and why they work or why they don't work and stuff like that. So let me tell you guys about my dating history a little bit. Um, yeah, so I wasn't someone who was dated in high school really. That wasn't something that we were allowed to do. And by the way, in retrospect, I don't think that was a bad idea. Um, it wasn't something that I was allowed to do. And even in college, like I was never the person that people like that men were like attracted to. I was not that girl that people like fawned over. So my life experience was very different. I was an academic and an athlete and I just like let that be my identity for a really long time. Even after college, I got into the bodybuilding world and competing world and so it wasn't like a thing for me. I wasn't like, "Oh, I want a husband," or it was just I was an athlete and I was like, I'm not really the kind of person that men like. And I had somewhat low self-esteem. Not, wasn't horrible, but it certainly wasn't like, I was never the it girl, right? So I didn't have that like thought process for dating. It was not like, I was just like, people don't like me like that. And so up until I was about 25, 26 maybe, I dated people on and off. I had a serious relationship through college, But then I was like, I don't really want to marry you. I didn't really know why. I just was like, you're not the one. Um, he was a great guy. There was nothing wrong with him per se. We just weren't like, I put it this way, if I would have married him, it would have been a disaster because I just wasn't in a place like I just didn't fully understand the role of a wife, didn't fully understand how men worked, and didn't fully understand how women worked and like how we were wired. So, and even until I was like 28, 29, I just didn't know. And I think that's a crucial part of dating and understanding like how men operate, like how they're hardwired and how women are hardwired and which part of those hardwirings are good and which parts are bad or need to be adjusted and and working within those. I just didn't that didn't even cross my mind. Okay. Some people like their parents talk about with them like when they're younger and all that. No, that was not it for me. I was just kind of, I just kind of like, kind of lived my life. I was a teacher uh, for 12 years and that kind of consumed a lot of my life. And then, I would go on dates, but I don't know, like in a lot of ways, I was like desperate and not in the way of like, I want to get married. I just was like, I just didn't have a blueprint. And that's why it was so hard because I didn't have a blueprint. And I think most women need a blueprint. I think a lot of people, especially as I talk to women like my age, I'm like, okay, so I wasn't the only one who didn't have a blueprint. I wasn't the only one who like no one was like, "Hey, like these are the things that you should do. This is what you should look for." Of course, if that's what you want. Like this is how men are hardwired. This is how women are hardwired. Now make this work for like what you desire. Like I needed a blueprint. And up until then, I was kind of spinning my wheels. I was in a 3-year relationship, essentially begging this man to like marry me. And I was like, this was like when I was 27. So by the time I was 30, I was like, okay, he's not gonna marry me. So I finally just was like, okay, like this is this is not gonna work. So I just ended things. But it was hard. And even then it was hard. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just never gonna find a partner because I don't there's like 2 concepts. One concept is you don't really want to get married or you don't really want to be in a relationship. And so you only choose men who are not really available and who are not emotionally available and who don't want the same thing you do and who are not explicit about it. And you let people waste your time. So I think that's why it was so hard for me because I did let people waste my time. And that was the first thing is that I let people waste my time. And the second thing is I just wasn't clear about what I wanted. It, dating in my 30s was really hard until I was like laser focused. Like these are the 10 things that matter and that's it. And like that's a concept that I think we have to like I had to get to. Everybody's not going to be like me. I recognize that some people are going to have 15 things on their list. Some people are going to have 20. Like I had 10 non-negotiables and that was it. That meant that anything else that came up was going to be workable, fixable, figure outable, you know? So until I got really clear about what I wanted, it was hard because I was like, well, that bothers me, so no. And this bothers me, so no. And that bothers me. So anything that bothered me or anything that I just didn't like, I was like, no. And like there are things that I don't care for in my husband, but the 10 things that matter are there, right? The 10 things that I needed are there. And one thing that helped me a lot was like I had a lot of like healthy women in my life reminding me that everybody is going to have issues, meaning like there's going to be things about someone that you don't like. Whether you marry the perfect person or not, there's going to be things that you like about them, but it's that you don't like about them. And you have to decide what those things are. Like you have to decide which things are non-negotiables for you and which things are not, because you're not going to find everything in the person. And I know people are like, yeah, I did. And I'm like, you're lying though, because your husband or your wife still makes you mad. Your husband or your wife still triggers you. That means that everything you don't like everything about them, right? So like I had to really embrace the concept that there's going to be things that I don't like about this person and I still want to marry them. You know what I mean? Like I still want to be in marriage with them. And so I think a lot of people, men and women, are just not wired and not like we're not taught how relationships really work. And I think I made a live about this, how social media ruins what real relationships are like because we look at them and we see someone who's been working for my computer's gonna die, so let me move. We see someone who's been working for like in the relationship for like 10 years and we're like, ooh, like they have the perfect relationship. Like I wanna, I'm gonna be just like them. And we want that in the like first year, and just not understanding that like most relationships don't work like that. Like that was a game changer for me, understanding that relate like marriage particularly because um is a place to grow. Like it's actually a place where you grow more than a place where you like find perfection and happiness. And it's funny because when I got married, a lot of my clients were like, it's funny. It's interesting how people don't tell you stuff when you're not married. Um, but when I got married, a lot of my clients were like, hey, they would say, well, in my culture, like we look at marriage as like, it's a mirror. So it's just, there's a lot of troubles with it, but there's a lot of good things with it. And as long as you are looking at it as this is where I grow, it's going to be great. And I love that. I love that that's the approach that a lot of other cultures take to marriage, and that's a place that I had to get. Even when I was dating, I was like, okay, if a man doesn't fit these 10 things, he's out. But if he does fit these 10 things, like let's see where this goes. Right. And so some people were like, okay, this is not going to work out. And some people were like wasting my time. And I was like, okay, you don't want to get married. And then there was my husband now, right? Who was like, I know what I want, you know what you want. Let's pursue this. And then let's, whatever he proposed. And I did not become anybody's girlfriend. That was the best decision that I ever made. A lot of people, like a lot of women still fall into the girlfriend trap. And at 35, I was 34. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be like, what is a girlfriend? Like, are we 16? Like, what does that even mean? Does that mean that you get access to my body, my mind, my heart, my soul, my location, my phone, and you don't like claim me and I don't get any legal, spiritual, financial like benefit from this? That's stupid. It's a scam. Being a girlfriend is a scam. And I told him that. I was like, I'm not anybody's girlfriend. Like, I'm not doing like that's not I said it in nicer ways, but I was like, that's not what I want. Like, I'm actually interested in becoming somebody's wife. So if that's what you want, let's just get to know each other, right? I'm not gonna sit up here and like lock myself into you and we don't even know each other. And and the other thing was is like I did that before. So dating in my 30s was hard until I decided that I was gonna stop doing what I was doing before, which was oh, let's date for a year and see and like I lock myself into you. I can't meet other people. I can't talk to any other people. So men who are hardwired to chase and to pursue and to uh they're masculine, they they don't have to do anything. They just have the cow and the horse and all that stuff without even paying for anything. So I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I decided that I was not going to play that game. And that was a big decision because a lot of people and a lot of men were like, oh, that's who they're like, oh, you're a whore. Like, I was like, then let me be. Let me be. You have to be like I had to be super comfortable with people calling me, names and prude and all this other stuff because I was like, I'm not sleeping with you and I'm not going to be your girlfriend. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not sleeping with you and I'm not going to be your girlfriend. I will get to know you. I will be kind. I will be, friendly, but I'm not going to be your girlfriend. I'm not going to sleep with you. I like that just wasn't in my blueprint anymore. And so my blueprint for dating says that we don't become girlfriends and we don't sleep with men. And for a lot of women, that's super hard. Like they give themselves to men in the hopes that this man will then like choose them. And that's just the opposite from the truth. Like if you want a healthy masculine provider man, most of these men are not looking for someone to be their, you know, their their sex doll. So I had to really just change my entire blueprint, change the entire way that I approached dating because I was dating like everyone else, which was go online or go on a date with a friend and then, with someone recommended to me and then date like together. We're exclusive. Like I don't even know what that word exclusive means, but I was exclusive. Like I was like, okay, well, we're together and that's my man. And it's like, according to my taxes, I'm still single. And I did that for years and years and years. And that's why I get so hard because I was breaking my own heart for years and years and years. And when I decided that I was going to stop breaking my own heart, then the right person came along because I was like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm just gonna date. I'm gonna date. I'm gonna have guys on my roster. Yep, men on a roster that have the same goals and values as me. And whichever one decides that they want to put a ring on my finger, then that's the one that gets me. And that's honestly like a more biblical way of dating anyway. And like I'm a Christian, you guys know that. So it really like nowhere in the Bible are there girlfriends. Like people didn't like become girlfriends. That's not even a thing. And I used to get so mad at my dad for saying that, but it's true. There's no such thing as girlfriend. So you really just your family would look at men and say these are high quality men, choose from this batch of high quality men. So I didn't have family choosing these men, but I had a list. Okay, were they a believer? Did they have a certain amount of income? Yes. Did they were they honest? Okay. Did they have good relationships with their family? I have to even look at my list. I don't even know what my what my list says anymore. Because my friend had it actually. And then I would date someone and he would go, oh, that wasn't on your list. You can't complain about that. Like, oh, we didn't care. It wasn't on your list for him to have siblings. So you can't complain about that. Right. If it's important that he comes from a big family, you need to put that on your list. But if that's not then you need to not complain about that. And that kept me humble and on track. Let's see. I got made fun all the time for being a nice guy. Yeah. Yep. Because I believe that. And even like, yeah, I have thoughts about that because it's smart women understand that nice guys are actually the best ones. Smart one. And even I went through a phase where I was like, oh, he's too nice. And like I probably wouldn't have chosen my husband 5 years ago, 7 years ago, because I just wasn't smart enough. To be honest, like I just didn't have the wherewithal to do that. No such thing as dating. In my house growing up, we weren't allowed to date. Yeah. Yeah. Now at 39 years of age, for being single for so long, it felt comfortable being alone. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. For me, I was also very comfortable being alone. So dating, it wasn't like I needed to date. It wasn't like, because for a while, if I'm being honest, there was this sort of like, oh, like I want to be married. So I was like chasing relationships. But when I met Spencer a year ago, I had already planned to leave California. So literally, I told him I was like, I'm moving to Texas. My sister lives there. I can get a teaching job there. It's cheaper, better cost of living, etc. And so when I met him, I wasn't on this like I didn't have that energy of desperation because it was like I'm leaving. Like I'll date you, but I'm leaving. I'm 100% leaving this state. So getting to a point where you're like comfortable being alone is really really good. It's really really good. But family expectations sucks, especially in African households. Oh, excuse me. Oh yeah, that was another thing I had to get over. Was I had to get over what other people thought about who I was marrying and dating. And this is before I met my husband. Was I did have like, oh, what are other people gonna think? I 500% stopped caring about that. That was a big one. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I stopped caring about what other people think because a lot of the stuff I realized that I was doing was low key because I was like, well, if I show him on Instagram, what are people going to think? If people see me with him, what are people going to? I do not care. Am I going to care when, I have this man who is number one, 100% faithful to me, 100% faithful. I know this, 100% faithful, who treats me like a queen, who I respect and I value. Like, why do I care what he looks like? That wasn't the most important thing to me on my list. But a lot of women care because they want their friends to say, "Oh, he's cute. He's cute." It's like, I don't care what y'all think. Good, you don't think he's attractive. More for me. When you were younger, you have all the energy to date and be emotional. I did. Yes, that's actually a very true statement because I had all this energy and I got tired. I got tired. I was like, "What are you doing?" You're you know? Um, yeah, me and my girl just decided to keep a relationship between us. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I did with, Splinter. We just every guy did it. I was like, this is not for public consumption, and I really don't care if people like this or not. I really don't care if people, validate it or not. I mean, we went through premarital counseling with the pastor, and he was vetted and all that stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, do you think he looks good? Like, do you think it wasn't like that because I already had my values and standards matched. So we knew that we had the same values and standards. So it didn't really, to me, I'm like, that's all that matters. I don't care if he's, 6 feet tall or, he happens to be, but that didn't matter to me. So once I narrowed down my dating to 10 things, my options actually opened up a lot. And the other thing was that race was not one of them. That was not one of the things on my list. Now, some people, they will have that. And when you do that, you do race limits the amount of people that you can date, period. You know? I hear all the criticisms of me and my girl. Oh, green card scam, or I'm not handsome. Yeah, people are going to say that. That's what people are going to say. They're just going to make comments, and a lot of people, these are people who don't have relationships. That's the other thing I realized is like all these people making comments, they don't have relationships. And that's part of this whole thing is not listening to people who are not married. Because the people who are married would say to me, these things matter, these things do not. What other people think, the way he dresses, all this weird stuff y'all be worried about does not matter. And these are what married people would tell me. But as a younger woman, all that stuff mattered. So I was like, there's no man, there's nobody and I probably got the best that I could have because I chose from the right perspective. I didn't choose because, oh, is he cute? Is he tall? How many Instagram followers does he have? Does everyone else think he's attractive? No, I chose based on values. And that made my job a lot easier because I was like, it was easy to be like, nope, doesn't have the same values. Nope, 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 nope. And even when I was dating, it was easy to be like, oh, we have the same values. I could see, let's see if we can actually get along thing. Let's see if we actually, are compatible. The older I get, the less people I want to be around. Lots of human. Yeah. Yeah. Me and we're pretty quiet. But anyway, I just want to hop on here quickly and just share like if you think that dating in your 30s is hard, I believe trust me, I've been there. It was really really hard for me initially at first, but I narrowed down what I was looking for and I got very specific. Very, very specific, and I limited what I cared about to 10 things because the secretary problem is a real thing. We have the illusion that there's hundreds and thousands of these like millionaire amazing men out there and it's like it's not like that and the likelihood of them choosing you is and like if you're my age, most of the men like my husband's 6 years older than me, they're in a good tax bracket. They're not millionaires, but they're in a good tax bracket. So you don't need to marry a millionaire. You need to marry someone who's going to be faithful. You need to marry somebody who's going to work hard. You need to marry somebody who's going to treat you well. It's nice if they're like financially like super well off, but that's not like the reality of most men. I happen to be in a situation where I'm like, okay, this is very comfortable. And I would never recommend that you get with someone who's poor, to be honest with you. I would never recommend it. I just don't think it's healthy for women to be in survival mode. But I would say, like, ask yourself what's a realistic standard. What's a realistic standard? For me, it was realistic that living in the Bay Area with my own income, like, you got to match my energy, like, period. You know, and so there we have it. So it's just it's really, yeah, I think our standards were skewed, and they have been skewed, and so I had really high standards for my 10 things, and everything else I was like, "It's fixable," and I think that's why I feel so it was so easy and I felt so comfortable because I was like, "I have 10 all I have is 10 things," you know? I have 10 things on my list, and they were very high. You know, like, we go to church every Sunday. Okay, do you pray? Do you read your Bible? Are you pursuing God? Like, those things, right? Those are things that matter to me. Those are 10 things that matter. Do you want a family? Are you respectful? You know, are you honest? Do people think that you have high integrity? What do your friends say about you? You know, like, that matters, you know? And so those were my high standards. My high standards weren't like, oh, how does he dress? You know, and when I started to do that and I chose those things that matters, oh, there were like people left and right. Unfortunately, most people today are not raised to be husbands or wives. They're raised to be slaves for corporations. 100%. Men and women. Men and women are taught to chase the bag. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't chase the bag and chase a relationship equally, right? So you have to balance those two. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of women fell into the trap of, you know, worrying more about their careers than their relationships and not developing, like, a lot of women, I'll say, were not taught how to choose men. So we were taught how to how to get jobs, how to be successful, and how to deal with corporate America, but we weren't taught how to select high quality men. So a lot of women are choosing from their wounding, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, I gotta get going because I gotta be at work super early tomorrow. Um, and I also need to clean up a little bit around here. So I'm gonna get off of here. But I did want to share this because a few people had asked me, hey, like, why, like, dating is so hard for me. So how did how did you navigate that? I did meet my husband online. So um but I had very specific standards for how I chose. And if you guys want me to do a video on that, I can certainly do that. All right. Thank you. Talk to you later, guys. Don't forget to like this video. Bye.